name for the webinar. But today is all about keeping customers hooked with a good after sales experience. That's the only pun I'll allow myself. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Christian from Claimlane. I work with retailers, brands, and manufacturers to tidy up the messy world of warranties and returns. It's not the most glamorous side, but I think it's where if you fix it, then you could get loyalty in a way that kind of marketing spend can't match. And today, I'm very lucky to be joined by Cameron from Angling Direct. Cameron looks after warranties at Angling Direct, and he has a really nice connection to the RNLI. But Cameron, if you want to introduce yourself, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So as been mentioned, my name's Cameron. I'm the warranty manager here at Angling Direct. Have been since April this year. And as Christian said, I've got a connection with the RNLI, volunteer in the background in my own personal sort of time. So as I say, I started back in April as the warranty manager. Previous to that, I worked in customer services, so quite close with the customer services team. So fully understand kind of, where customers sort of maybe lack the care for warranty, and what we could have done to improve that. Things taken longer than they should. Pretty much the standard across the industry, I think, for warranty. So I've done a bit of research, which is where I then found Claimlane, and here we are now.
Sweet, awesome. That's brilliant. Because we're not live yet. We will be going live soon, but yeah, we're not live yet. But I'd love to understand a bit more, like how did you get into warranties? Was it something you fell into, or on the customer service side, you went, actually, I can see this is an issue that needs fixing? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of both, really. So I kind of always realised that there was definitely more that we could do to sort of fix warranty. And then the opportunity sort of rose in April when my predecessor left. He went off to start his new career. So I thought, you know what, I'll apply for it and see what happens. And I got the job, and instantly started doing some research on, ways that we can fix it, make customers' lives easier, make our suppliers' lives easier, and most of all, make our own lives easier as well. So yeah, here we go.
Yeah, awesome. That makes sense. And then for anybody who's watching who's not familiar with Angling Direct, because I know we've got a few viewers from the States, do you want give a bit of an overview of kind of the business, the scale you operate at? Because I know you've got a lot of stores, and a bit of a unique setup.
Yeah, absolutely. So Angling Direct, we are a fishing tackle retailer, e-commerce and physical stores as well. We were incorporated back in 2004 by an avid angler. His name's Martin Page. From there, we've kind of started off as one store and a website. And now we're all the way up to, I think, now coming up to 58 stores and counting. So, year on year, we are definitely growing. The fishing sort of world is growing rapidly year on year. It's becoming more and more popular with people. I think this sort of the whole getting back into nature and things like that people are really starting to push back on. And fishing's the best way to do it. I'm a fisherman myself. I can completely understand why people are doing it. We're definitely growing year on year. Back in, I think it was March 2022, we then opened our first warehouse over in Europe in Venlo. So we've now got sort of a European custom base now as well. We've got a store that we've just opened within the last couple of years in Utrecht in the Netherlands. So really branching out.
That's really exciting. I imagine with COVID and lockdowns and people not being able to socialize and then getting into fishing. I know it was the first time I tried doing some crayfishing, which was awesome fun. I'm not a very good fisherman, but I can sit there and take instruction and do what I'm told. But that's really good fun, and it's fantastic to grow from just a single stall, just just from almost nothing to now 58 stores. Being in Europe, that's awesome. But I'd love to dig into a little bit about kind of the old world and when you came in April to looking after warranties. You applied for the role, you got the role, and you saw, right, this is what was going on. How were warranties handled day to day? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, so at the minute, sort of the last returns guy, he sort of created some processes and things which, as a lot of other retailers probably use spreadsheets and emails. And our system is basically the same. It was all run through through Power Automate and things like that to make life a little bit easier. But yeah, it was still so many emails being fired weekly. The suppliers then email them back with what they need, so photos, videos, proof of purchases, and things like that. Um, so yeah, it was a real mess, or it still is while we're sort of using the current system. Yeah, that's what kind of gave me the drive to think, how can we do this better? How can we put everything into one place? So how can we get the photos? How can we get basically everything that our suppliers need and that we need first time around every time, which is where I then found Claimlane.
Nice. That's awesome. It's really good to hear. We hear that a lot from specific. We really sit in that more complex side of stuff. There's loads of good providers in the fashion space, but as soon as you've got a fishing rod, it's an expensive item. There's lots of items that can go wrong, and
Mhm.
fishing gear as a whole is a bit more complex than just a t-shirt. So there's a lot more that can go wrong, and then forwarding things onto the suppliers. It is doing it without Claimlane is a bit of a pain. What kind of volumes, if you don't mind sharing, are you guys working with warranties and returns?
Oh yeah, it's a great question. I think when I've done a lot of digging on it, I think we were sort of in the tens of thousands, yearly.
Mhm.
We sell that many smaller products as well that they become faulty, and that's the other thing at the moment is sort of a lot of the smaller products they kind of just get sorted out, so the customers will get like maybe a refund and things like that, without us then going to the supplier. So with Claimlane again, that was another thing that I thought we'll be able to get resolutions on basically every product that we sell rather than just kind of like you say the more expensive ones. So yeah, it is. It's a lot. We do get a lot of warranties every year.
Yeah, that is but at the scale you're operating at, that kind of it makes sense. And yeah, you're 100% right. Every item you go from, like, there's a customer has a problem, documenting up front, getting the customers to do the work, but ultimately it's like improving that customer experience. Because I speak to lots of retailers, brands, and manufacturers, and the big thing, especially with retailers and brands, is that if a customer has a poor experience, they're going to go straight to Trustpilot, they're going to go straight to Google reviews, they're going to tell all their friends, and it's like one bad experience, it just it snowballs. But then also making sure you're getting credited from every small item, it means protects margins, because we don't work with these big margins. um, but that totally makes sense. And if you were speaking to another retailer who kind of knows they need to fix warranties and they're looking at this, um, but they really they wouldn't have any idea where to start. What advice on like how they should go about approaching the problem would you give to them?
Yeah, so just very much do your research. Like I say, it's the first thing I did as soon as I got in, sort of in charge of the warranty side of things here. It was just do a lot of research. There's a lot of companies out there that sort of offer warranty systems and things like that. But definitely do your research on which ones offer the best packages and things like that. Like I say, Claimlane kind of ticked all of the boxes when I was searching compared to a lot of other sort of say competitors. Um, but yeah, no, definitely do your research. Do what's best for the customer. You know, make it as easy as possible for them. Which with Claimlane, it's super simple.
Nice, awesome. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. And are there any specific fringe or edge cases that come to mind that are particularly tricky to do over email and spreadsheet that you've got off the top of your head?
Um, yeah, there's quite a few complicated things. I mean, sort of with regards to the fishing industry specifically, a lot of our products are quite big. So getting, stores, especially because, like I say, we've got 58 stores, and for them to have to take all of the photos when the customer gets into store, space wise, it's just not ideal. Whereas if the customer's at home, they can, most of them do it in their garden and things like that, sort of, or they can even do it while they're out on the bank. As soon as it's broken, they can take the photo while it's actually, the product's up and running, or they can physically see the fault. That way, it just saves a lot of time and things like that. Whereas, yeah, having to get the photos of those products and then having to email them to the suppliers, it's a lot of manual work. It's a lot of manual work.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. It is a bit of a friction point for customers,
Mhm.
and I'm interested. I am particularly interested in the store part of Angling Direct, because it's a you have a lot of brands who are just purely online, but it's it's becoming increasingly rare where you have both that in-store presence, 58 stores, and also that online presence. Um, how is that? Is that process different from if I'm a customer, like the kind of the old process? Is that really very different? If I'm a customer and I bought a fishing rod in a store, um, could you walk me through that process? And like, something's wrong.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So if it was a store purchase, then the customer would have to take it back to the store for the store to then sort of obviously process the warranty or the return on it. It's going to be quite similar through Claimlane. It's just going to be a lot simpler in terms of the technology that we can now use and the fact that we can upload photos straight up to the Claimlane portal rather than having to take the item in. Then the forms get sent to the supplier weekly, and then they get requested to take the photos. Everything's just done in one foul swoop with Claimlane. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a massive improvement in the store aspect side of things, especially for the store workers, because a lot of it is manual work at the minute, and this should really take out that kind of manual side again. It's just all the manual work really that we do struggle with. So I think Claimlane is definitely going to be quite good for that.
Thank you. No, that's awesome. It's great to hear. The big thing that we are trying to do is eliminate that manual work, but also allow human intervention. It's not like a black box. You go, right, send this off. It's done. With some of these more complex items, you want to make sure that everything is managed end to end. Um, but is there do you have something that do you find yourself looking at the process as a whole, and you're looking at that whole workflow? Basically the main problem that you're facing? I know we haven't implemented Claimlane yet, but is the manual workflows, the manual steps, it taking a lot of time for the install process? Are people still now they've got a spreadsheet, they're emailing it over to you guys? Is that kind of how that's looking?
So similar. So the way it works, we use some software called Epicor. So everything gets sort of put into Epicor. We've got like what we call the warranty dashboard, which is essentially where all of the data sits at the moment, which is where Power Automate will then pull the information out of that sort of dashboard, depending on sort of statuses and things like that. So it's quite complex as it is anyway, technology-wise, in the background. Probably overcomplicated to what it needs to be, but for it to work through the Power Automate flows, that's the way that needs to work. So yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare. Yeah, it's just very admin heavy as well for everyone, really.
Yeah. Yeah, we hear that a lot. That makes a lot of sense. The big project we're trying to do is eliminate a lot of that manual admin work where you can kind of solve it from one platform. And obviously we haven't implemented yet, but in the future setup, once we've got stuff working, I know we've got Anas Bunda, who's you've been talking with, working in the background, Michael, getting everything set up. But what are the outcomes that you want Claimlane to drive for you?
So for me personally, obviously, the customer services aspect is always going to be my main priority. Making sure that customers aren't waiting for a crazy amount of time for warranty resolution is my number one priority. Then making everyone else's lives easier, such as the stores and the suppliers. Especially our suppliers, they have to manually fill in all of these spreadsheets that we send requesting photos, and the fact that they're going to get these photos straight away, like on a single ticket, that's going to make their life much easier. So yeah, for me, that was sort of the big drive to make change, was just to make everyone's lives easier and just much less kind of, like I say, admin heavy. And yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, makes sense. Removing manual admin, making the process a bit easier. We do have a lot of the cool analytics on the back end that we can see faults. That for me, I think is quite exciting because I speak to lots of different businesses, and I ask the question like, what kind of volumes are you getting? What's your current workflow? And we kind of define that. But if I was to say, with this specific product, do you know which faults you're getting from this? And they can maybe go into a general ticketing system and maybe type in the name of something and just look at every single ticket. But I get quite excited in the back end to be able to talk to a supplier and have these supplier meetings and go, this is what's going really well with all of your products, and this is what's not going so well with all the products. Um, but from the, would you say from like the if you kind of compare right now the in-store process when someone has a warranty claim and the online process, um, is that process fairly consistent at the moment? If I've taken if I bought a fishing rod, taken it into the store, or if I bought it online and I'm submitting it online, is the process right now quite similar, or how does that look?
Yeah, so it's quite similar, except for the fact that at the moment, a lot of sort of the main reason why our stores get so much admin is because if someone's bought something online, they can also then still return that to the store. And essentially, at the moment, especially with warranty where it's gone over the 30-day period, all the store essentially are doing is just holding that item until we've taken the photos and sent them to the supplier. And the thing that I'm quite excited about is the fact that with Claimlane, they don't have to immediately return it to to the store. Obviously, they can do the upload onto the portal, which is when we then send it through to the supplier, and the supplier then, they say, "Oh yeah, we're going to need this back." We can then arrange that all centrally. It doesn't even need to go back to the store. So automatically, you're taking that pressure away from the store. So yeah, it's going to be really, really exciting, I think.
Yeah, nice. That's really cool. I think it makes a big difference having that consistent process. The customers can self-serve and kind of go online, because I know for me, when I've had issues with products, I kind of sometimes I don't want to go into the store, and especially Gen Z, the younger generation, as they're getting into sports like fishing, they they don't want to necessarily call up or go into store. They kind of want to self-serve and do things themselves, and I think it's quite important to be able to kind of help everybody. If somebody wants to come into a store, speak to somebody, you shouldn't remove that human interaction. But equally, if somebody wants to just go, right, I just want this fixed, I'm going to go online and do it myself, like giving people that option too, that makes a lot of sense. Um, no, that's fantastic. And are there any what kind of data fields are you capturing when basically when a customer has a problem, they have a specific problem? What kind of information are you wanting to capture from the customer? And kind of in the before process, do you find you're going back and forth a lot with the customer, going like, I need this specific information, and it's kind of there's a kind of email back and forth if they're returning it online?
Yeah, particularly with our web team, I think that's probably sort of one of the biggest things. We use Zendesk at the moment, and yeah, there's certainly a lot of emails back and forth. Trying to get photos and things like that from the customer from the starting point. We request photos for everything, and then yeah, sometimes the photos aren't quite clear, and yeah, it can be a real headache sometimes with the back and forth with the customer. The store side of things isn't so bad because the customer will take it in and the store will do their assessment there, take all the details and then put that into the system now. So that's not such a big stress. It's just more the admin side. But yeah, web wise, yeah, it's a big headache having to get the photos and request a lot of information from the customer who might not even know the actual fault, especially if it's like, for example, an electronical problem. We'll ask for photos, and that's about all the customer can give us really. But that is never going to diagnose a fault fully. So yeah, it's a bit of a headache.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I have had a question from the audience. So Jens has asked, when it comes to the manual handling of warranty claims, what side is more time consuming on your side? Is it the consumer side, or is it kind of forwarding those claims to the suppliers?
So for us, forwarding claims to the suppliers is actually relatively easy, just because of the way it's been set up through Power BI and Power Automate. So we essentially just get a list that goes through Power Automate based on a status in our current warranty dashboard. That then literally just fires a spreadsheet over to the supplier with all of the store details and things like that. The real manual side for us is where we then get a reply from the supplier that might have 20 warranties on it on this spreadsheet. So the store has to go in, they have to find, you know, their product, their warranty reference, and then work out whether they need to send a photo based on what the supplier has said. So then they need to obviously take the photos, attach them to the email, and then send it over to the supplier. So that for us is the biggest like sort of manual side of things, which is a lot of manual work.
Yeah, that does sound like a lot. And do a lot of different suppliers have different guidelines for you, or are they all fairly similar?
Yeah, so there are quite a few sort of variants of actions that sort of we need to do. So it might be that they request photos, some like videos, some like us to. Some of our suppliers already have their own portals, so we have to then manually upload things to their portal, which isn't quite so bad, but it's still quite a lot of work. We're going to be working with our suppliers around Claimlane and using their portals. And I think we've only got 3 or 4, so that's not too bad. Um, but yeah, it varies on the product size, the product cost, um, what the product is itself, what category it comes under. So yeah, it all depends.
Nice. Um, and if no, that makes a lot of sense. And we hear that a lot, that there are suppliers that have their own portals, different guidelines, different lots of different stuff. So yeah, that we hear that a lot, and that makes sense. And if there's one part of that supplier relationship and workflow that you would improve, what would you look at?
It's a great question. Probably just the overall um, sort of. Hmm, very good question. Probably just the overall easiness of submitting the claims and things like that,
Yeah,
which is obviously through Claimlane is what we're doing.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just the initial sort of side of things, providing things straight away, um, making sure that everyone's got all of the information they need. That's probably the biggest improvement that needs to be made.
yeah. No, that's good to hear. That's really good to hear. That because that's so for the audience who don't know Claimlane, like thanks, Cameron. That's really helpful information. It's an awesome overview of Angling Direct, kind of where you guys are right now and where we're moving towards. I do want to hear also how we are to work with, to kind of put our implementation guys under the spotlight a little bit to make sure that they're I'm sure they're doing good, and I know they're doing all right. But I would love to understand how it's been from your side, from dealing with us from that whole end to end, from when you had like no clue about Claimlane to then when you were like, okay, right, we want to do something, we're going to work with you guys, we're going to work on this project together, because it's not a small undertaking. There's a lot of complexity in your setup and
Mhm.
and in what's important to keep that customer experience consistent, to keep the supplier experience consistent. If you wouldn't mind sharing a bit about like how we were to work with from kind of front to now.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, first of all, obviously, I got in contact with you guys, and then sort of spoke to the service team, who were great from the off, gave us loads of information. And I think within maybe 2 or 3 weeks of that initial conversation, they actually came here and had good chat with us, had a look at our system that we're currently running, um, sort of made some really good points about what Claimlane is going to potentially do for us. Um, so then I took all of that information, pitched it to our commercial team, who gave us the thumbs up. Yeah, that's probably about after 2 months of kind of initially finding Claimlane. And so yeah, quite quick. It all happened quite quick. Um, yeah, and then the implementation side of things, as you say, our system is quite complex that we're having to plug it into. We've got quite a complicated ERP system that our IT guys have been doing the main work, our end. But in terms of the implementation and the actual like building of all the portals and everything, super quick, super helpful. Any questions have been asked, in really good time. I will give a shout out to Anders. He's been really good. I think we've probably asked him quite a few questions that have been a bit baffling, just because, like I say, our ERP system is quite complex. So regarding all the APIs and things like that, Anders has been very helpful. Um, yeah, so overall, it's been a really good experience so far. Would definitely recommend it to anyone who's even thinking about, trying Claimlane. 100% so far, so good.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear. I know Anders has been working hard on your setup, getting stuff set up, and the ERP stuff is that's always the interesting part, because every ERP set up differently, the data's mapped differently, and connecting those dots is is an interesting task. It's doable, and I'm really glad that you're liking working with Anders. The process of working together has been good so far. I know we've got to deliver, and things are in motion to get live. I don't. What I'll do is see if there's any questions in the live chat. 'Cause I know we've got like 20 odd people in the chat. See if there's any more questions because we've got 4 minutes left. If there's any questions, guys, ask them now. And then if not, we will call this day. Unless there's anything specific that you want to share, Cameron, at all.
No, I'm quite
No,
happy. I think we've spoken about everything that I was going to sort of speak about anyway. So yeah, I'm quite happy from my point of view.
that's amazing. Awesome. I think that is all good. I don't think we've got any more questions. But Cameron, I really appreciate your time today, going through everything from understanding what Angling Direct's setup was, your background, your connection with the RNLI, how things are working today, how we're working together to kind of connect the dots, connect with the ERP, work with that install process. But I really, really appreciate your time spending half an hour before the whole Black Friday thing kicks off. So really appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful day.
No, thank you for having me. It's been great.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.